Dzień dobry, witam. Na FRL-u poświęconym koordynacji współpracy w budowaniu odporności.
Welcome on the local development forum devoted to the preparedness to crisis situation. Today's meeting will be hosted by Tomasz Płatański and Tomasz Dąbrówka. Ladies and gentlemen, our meeting is organized in the framework of the bilateral collaboration program, in collaboration with Norwegian, Icelandic, and Polish local governments in the years 2024-2025. The meeting is traditionally translated into Polish Sign Language. Since the meeting is going to be held in Polish and English, please remember that the Zoom platform allows you to choose the language channel. It is available on the bottom menu where you can choose the right language channel. The entire meeting will be translated into Polish or English, respectively, for our Norwegian colleagues. Tomasz, the topic is very current, very interesting. Can you tell us what to expect? It's very interesting, but also important, because it's not only important for the local governments, but I believe that today's topic is important for two reasons mostly. First of all, because we all notice that we live in the times where we're going to face greater and greater dangers. It is both related with the lower level of security, but also more extreme forms of dangers, the pandemic, weather situations, to the elements of hybrid conflict, which becomes a part of our reality. How to prepare for that? More and more people notice that this traditional meeting, where we see that this is a matter of preparation, equipment, coordination of rescue services, army, police, fire forces, this is not enough. This is an outdated way of thinking. Today we know that we have to be able to act on the basis of collaboration and engagement of all the partners, of all the entities in the civil society. And this collaboration, I believe, is the key point, the main thread of our collaboration in this program that we prepare together with our Norwegian colleagues. This collaboration, where the key word is preparedness. In Polish, we translate it roughly as readiness, the facts, the state of being prepared to any crisis, any difficult situations, which shows exactly what we're facing, how to include all the partners, all the entities into these activities that are the condition of preparing, protecting our cities, our municipalities and local communities. We're going to have a look at it from different perspectives. From the perspective of Norwegian cities, it's worth noting that in January, or a month ago, the Norwegian government presented to the parliament a white paper on preparedness, exactly, being prepared for crisis, showing that this is a radical breakthrough in our thinking on security. In Norway, from Norway, we're going to listen to the regional presentations. This is roughly the equivalent of our voivodeship. I would like to invite you to see how broadly this partnership is built, is created to build this preparedness, this readiness of local communities. Then we're going to have case studies of two Norwegian cities, how the crisis management is undertaken there in order to develop the preparedness of the local communities to crisis. And we're going to finish with a very interesting presentation by a lady who has been involved in scientific research on social capital, social relations based on trust, based on shared values, and its influence, its importance for building resilience to crisis situations. In Poland, we're going to show two very interesting examples. The Opole Agglomeration, a precedent, I think, in Polish collaboration. 21 municipalities, 2 counties, fire services, and other partners signed an agreement on collaboration for the safety of the entire agglomeration. So it's partnership across territories. But we're also going to see the perspective of Konin, where the head of the crisis management department is working on the collaboration between different services, different representing different organizations, how to ensure their collaboration. I believe this is a very interesting example, and it's going to fall in line with one main thought: preparing for crisis, preparing for anything that might come, requires first and foremost the engagement of all the partners. With the knowledge that the rescue services may not provide help in the first moment everywhere for everyone. And of course, we know that the quality of activity, of actions of the police, army, etc., is not only dependent on the equipment and their training, but in the first place on the skills of the civil society to strengthen their potential. This is a very tangible program showing different dimensions and very up to date. And we see here many people welcoming us on chat. So hello to all of you. And we invite you to discuss on the chat, to share your reflections, your ideas, ask questions. We have many experts with us. And I believe this is a high time to open the seminar. We have our great guests. We have Mr. Kamil Wieder, Head of Division, Department of Assistance Programs, Ministry of Development Funds and Regional Policy. So I'd like to ask him for the introduction. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Recently, I have been preparing a text for social media, and I wrote about mixed feelings. And they also have mixed feelings. Maybe it appears that I'm not speaking about this particular topic because this is our last seminar within the current financial perspective of Norwegian funds, which is a bit sad for me. But I'm very happy, as the former speakers have said. As usual, during our meetings on the local development forum, we touch very important, very current topics. And I don't want to speak too long. A lot has been already said. What are the topics that we will discuss today? And what would be the important challenges that we want to cover? What matters to us? We're going to see it not only from the Polish perspective, but also from the perspective of our Norwegian colleagues, to share the best practices, to share the most important experiences. The topic, well, unfortunately, is very current, very up-to-date in our situation. And I believe this is not only related to these elements of hybrid war that Mr. Tomasz Kaiser mentioned, but also this looming threat, less or more realistic, of larger scale military conflict. And I believe that this is one of the reasons why we meet here to discuss these issues. I'd like to thank all of you for all the seminars that we have organized within the framework of the Norwegian funds. This is the last of them. But I know that this is definitely not the last local development forum ever, because very, very soon we're going to have the new series of them already under the umbrella of the Swiss funds already. We have intensive work taking place there, and I'm absolutely sure that the brand that we have created will go on. And also when the next Norwegian finances will be available, we're going to meet again within this framework as well. Today I'd like to encourage you to ask questions, to be active, to participate actively in our seminar. And I believe there's a lot of interesting things that we'll be able to learn today and to implement them in our institutions. So on behalf of the Ministry of Regional Funds and Regional Policy, I'd like to thank all of you, and I'd like to pass the floor to the next speakers. Thank you very much. Mr. Wider, for presenting this broader framework and for your great engagement, because without it, it wouldn't be possible to have this collaboration, to the creation of this brand, and also presenting this outline, because it seems we have a sort of a relay run supporting the development of local governments, local communities. And in this development, we have always been accompanied by our partners from Norway, from KS, the Norwegian Association of Local and Regional Authorities. So now I'd like to pass the floor to Mr. Alexander Tymczuk, Councillor of the Norwegian Association of Local and Regional Authorities. I'd like to add that Mr. Alexander has been very personally in the preparation of this seminar, and you will hear it. And what you're going to hear is, in a great part, the effect of his engagement, his hard work. So thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for those kind words, my dear colleagues. And to all of you, good morning. On behalf of the Norwegian Association of Local and Regional Authorities, KS, I wish to welcome you to today's seminar on coordination and collaboration in building urban resilience and emergency preparedness. As has been said, my name is Alexander Tymczuk. I'm a special advisor at KS, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you to this important event, which we are delighted to organize together with our Polish sister organization, the Association of Polish Cities. Today's theme is particularly relevant for all of us. Local emergency preparedness is crucial in the times we live in, and the coordination and collaboration of emergency resources are essential to creating safe communities. In Norway, we adhere to 4 key principles of emergency preparedness: the principle of responsibility, the principle of equality, the principle of proximity, and the principle of cooperation. And today's seminar focuses on the last principle, cooperation. This principle was added to the other principles following the tragic terrorist attack on July 22nd, 2011. The evaluation of the handling of this event revealed that the coordination of emergency resources was insufficient, and the unofficial title of the report was "The Resources That Did Not Find Each Other." This truly highlighted the importance of good coordination and collaboration when a crisis. We are fortunate to have a number of skilled speakers from both Norway and Poland with us today, and I hope the seminar will inspire further cooperation and knowledge sharing across borders, and that together we can strengthen our ability to handle future challenges. So thank you for your attention, and I look forward to a fruitful and engaging discussion. Thank you.
Dziękujemy bardzo.
Thank you very much.
Teraz oddajemy głos dyrektorowi
Now I'd like to pass the floor to the Executive Director of the Association of Polish Cities, Andrzej Porawski, who cannot be with us personally, and he prepared for us a short introduction. Welcome to the next seminar organized with the framework of the Local Development Framework in collaboration with the Ministry of Regional Funds and Policy and the Norwegian Association of Local and Regional Authorities. Today's topic, the creation of a preparedness for crisis situation. Well, I can't stress enough how important it is. I'm very grateful that our Norwegian colleagues want to share their experiences with us. From the materials published recently, an analysis of the current system that has been in place in Norway for years, which is generally referred total defense. Now the new now that the emergency preparedness is a more popular concept, which puts more focus on just readiness to different challenges. The dangers that might be awaiting us can be very diverse in the context of the climate changes, terrorism, some large-scale blackouts or technical challenges, or the worst of all, the war. As we can see, in our neighborhood, it is not impossible, unfortunately. What is particularly important is the Norwegian experience, because the Scandinavian countries have a very well-established tradition in this field of good coordination, good preparation of different types of authors, actors and entities headed by the citizens themselves, because it is them who have the right to be protected, but they also have the duty to participate in the activities, ensuring their protection in the face of danger. When we're facing different kinds of dangers, and it is the local government that is responsible for handling, and we have to see how it's going to look at the county and the municipal level in Norway. We're going to have a look at the fascinating experience in Poland. Been in place for over a dozen years, which is a great enterprise in coordination on the scale of the entire Opole Agglomeration, and a project that is now referred to as the Solidarity in the Face of Danger. One of the most endangered elements in the face of different problems is the local infrastructure, which has the basic importance for the life and the survival of people. This is access to water, sewage, functioning of local energy distribution networks. As we know, these networks are beyond our reach sometimes, but we do have some limited influence on their functioning, but I hope this influence is going to be greater. So this resilience of our citizens and also of our infrastructure to crisis also requires, also in the face of the new legal regulations that have finally come in place in Poland, so the Act of Parliament on the protection of civil population and the changes to the crisis management, Act of Parliament on crisis management that have been consulted with us. So our tasks and our obligations have significantly increased. I'd like to thank everyone for the preparation of this seminar, and I'd like to wish you good inspiration for the activities that await us. Welcome to Norway, and I think that Ms. Huseby is with us.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Great. Thank you for the invite, and I'll try to share my presentation and tell you a little bit about how we work on the regional level in Norway. So I'm sorry about these technical issues. I was given the task to say a little bit about how the county governors work in local emergency planning and also our role in the total defense concept in Norway. So if you can give the next slide, please. The agenda is shortly to say something about the role in regional and local emergency planning, and also a little bit about the cooperation between the county governor and the municipalities, of course, very important in today. And finally, also say a little bit about the role in the total defense concept in Norway. Next, please. So, each county in Norway, it says, has a county governor, and we represent the king and the state on the regional level, and has the responsibility to follow up on the national decisions and directions in our areas. So the county governor also constitutes an important connection between the central authorities and the municipalities on the local level of public administration. So we are sort of an information hub on the regional level. Next, please. Thank you. So, as I said, we represent the states on the regional level, and there's 10 county governors in Norway. So I am in the southeastern part, which consists of 4 counties. And as you can see, there are more counties than county governors, but that has just a story of political decisions decreasing and increasing again the counties in Norway. So the county governor structure withstood the last decision in the change of numbers of the counties. So that means that some of the county governors therefore have more than one county to support and control. And on top of the list here is where I work in Østfold, Buskerud, Oslo, and Akershus, which is, as you can see on the map, in the southeastern part of Norway. Next, please. The county governor is the main representative of the Norwegian government, as I mentioned before, and the task and missions we do is on behalf of almost all the Norwegian ministries, as you can see on the left side. So this is just a typical organization of county governors, which reflects very much how the governmental organization is on the national level. So we get our assignments and funding from most of the Norwegian ministries. And that includes, among others, health, agriculture, environment, education, social services, legal, and also the emergency preparedness department, which I represent here. So the county governors have no independent political agenda of its own, but we should act for the benefit of the county. Next, please. So this is just a short introduction to the role of the county governor as a whole. So the tasks is to implement national directions and decisions, and that means or that complies to all sectors and all departments. So we mainly do that by guidance and dialogue, but we also have a supervisory authority with the municipalities on several levels. So to make sure implementing national politics is done effectively across sectors, the county governor has a formal coordination authority on a regional level. So that means that we have the authority to call on relevant actors and authorities when needed, including in case of emergency. So if something happens and we call on the actors, they will show up. And we also have an important juridical role in securing just and equal case procedures in several legal areas, also such as health and family matters. But I mentioned before that we are kind of an information hub, providing information from the central authorities to the municipalities and the other way around. But we cannot only serve as passive information hub, we are also have a real responsibility to gather information and to distribute situation of a view, take initiative and propose changes and measures on all these areas of responsibility. So I will now concentrate on the emergency preparedness area, which is the topic of the day. So next, please. Core in our work is to develop and audit the county risk and vulnerability analysis. So this was done in 2022 last, and we also edited just recent year, and we need to keep this updated at all time. This analysis consists of different scenarios that could occur and describes potential consequences for the society if they do so. So the analysis is a common planning basis for regional stakeholders and also for municipalities for further work on emergency planning and how to mitigate and reduce potential consequences. So the findings of these analyses are followed up with a developing plan within the frame of the County Emergency Council, which I will get back to, where we're trying to agree across all sectors on which measures to pursue and who should be in charge of every measure that is identified in these analyses. So the scenarios is also often consist of scenarios for exercises and serve also as a supporting document for the municipality's own analysis. So every municipality is expected to do their own risk and vulnerability assessment analysis. It's not easy, all these words. And we do it on a regional level, and also our national authorities do on some scenarios on a national level. So the main goal is to identify risks and hazards and to find measures reducing those risks. So the 2 last years, the analysis unfortunately also had to expand with a scenario analysis on military conflict and war. So we have been working a lot on that lately. Next, please. So the county governor is expected to have a leading role in regional emergency planning and facilitate collaboration between municipalities and regional stakeholders. So within the frames of the supervisory authority that we have the task of overseeing implementation and effectiveness in municipality work on emergency preparedness. So I will come back to you a little bit on that in a few minutes. The county governor leads the county emergency council and closely related to that, taking the lead in the regional coordination on a strategic level within the county if a crisis occurs. So we may implement preparedness measures, such as summoning the emergency council to establish a common and updated situation overview, or we could implement procedures on how to act in a situation with the loss of power or electronic communication. And we submit coordinated reports from the municipality to the central government during crisis. So that's a big part of our work. I will say a little bit more about the County Emergency Council, which I've also already mentioned a few times. Next, please. So I heard in the presentation that this is one of the important points, because the County Emergency Council consists of almost 50 in our area, almost 50 different partners, which you can see on upper right hand. Because when I started, it sounded a little bit simple, just to handle information flow. Why is it necessary to have a former regional coordinating authority? So this is me trying to visualize how the county governor coordinates in a crisis. So you have the ministries and directors on the left-hand side, all ministries, but just a few selected directorates, because there's a lot more of those, which we have, we get tasks and we need to report to. And then you have the Crisis Emergency Council on the upper right hand. As you can see, it consists of most central emergency agencies and also critical infrastructure owners in the county. Role of the county governor is to use this council to tie together national, regional, and local actors, and to facilitate the necessary information flow between levels and also actors, and also to create a common and updated situation overview. Thus, the decision makers have the best possible decision basis to handle the crisis on. So this also works as a forum where one might ask questions or forward any needs other actors are capable of fulfilling. So this is normally, if something happens, we will summon this council in a digital meeting in a rather short time during emergency weather. To extreme weather we have had a few times. It's in a couple of hours we can summon this council, and they will meet on a digital meeting and trying to get a common situation overview. And Several of these boxes on the upper right hand represent more than one unit. For instance, we have 3 police districts, we have 3 civil defense districts, and 3 home guard districts. And if this is not enough, I'll show you the next slide, please, which we call the regional patchwork of preparedness in our region. So I will not go into all of this. It just says that those are some of the most important actors in the total defense. We have the civil defense, we have the home guard, and we have the police districts here. We have also the health authorities in the regional level. And as you can see, no one has the same geographical borders. So the need for coordination is very high. So it underlines the importance of having, the same fixed structure in crisis management from the national level to the regional and then to the local level. So everyone knows who is coordinating if something happens. So the police is always the emergency in lead in a crisis, in the rescue operations, and we are having the regional role of coordinating and doing the information exchange on the regional level. And we also then coordinate and send all these reports from the municipalities up to the central governments. So what does this mean in a crisis? Next, please. So overall, the role is to maintain a supportive role for the relevant actors who handle the crisis directly, and we do not normally get involved in tactical or operational tasks or questions. So when the crisis occurred, as I said, we summon the members of the County Emergency Council, and we coordinate briefings from relevant regional or local authorities. As a crisis always occurs in a municipality, the municipality of the region often also are invited in the same meeting. So the municipalities are not a part of the council, but when something happens, they are normally always invited in because, of course, it always happens on the ground somewhere. So in that way, we facilitate an updated and common situation picture for all relevant actors and thus establish a good decision basis for those who need to make those hard decisions. We may also help to prioritize measures or forward initiatives towards central authorities when extra resources are needed. So this picture is just an example on how we acted during the extreme weather in August 2023. The national communication authorities needed then assistance to decide where to start mending mobile network towers. We assembled road authorities, the network providers, municipalities and health authorities, and getting the situation overview on and trying to sort out the possibilities of where can we get in, because of lots of roads were closed, where is the risk of serious consequences, where are the risks highest, how are we helping the different stakeholders contacting each other, and so on. So in that way, the national communication authorities was given a good decision basis on where to start mending all these towers that were down. Next, please. Another example on the same extreme weather in 2003. This is a municipality called Nesbyen, a little north of Oslo. And when this municipality was divided into 9 different areas, they had no road connections between, then we were able to request the healthcare assistance from national health authorities, to enhance the municipality's ability to provide healthcare. So we also had contact with those who coordinated helicopters resources and with the road authorities to see where is it possible to get people in and out. And if I remember correctly, there were 5 pregnant women in this area almost ready to give birth when this happened. So just to where to know who is coordinating how to get in and out of an area like this is very useful. So this is also a good example on why the increased self-prepared in the population is important, no matter the cost of the crisis. Next, please. So just a few words on the local level, as promised before, on the municipality level. So the main objective for the county governor towards the municipalities is to take a supportive role through professional guidance and advisory. So we hold exercises and lectures on emergency preparedness for municipality employees, but we also have a supervising authority. So municipalities, they have the responsibility and the legal power to prohibit the use of land that is or may be exposed to danger. So this applies both to individual buildings and larger schemes. So this is just an example on how the authority works. The county governor on the next level has then the authority to make objections on area development plans in areas liable to floods, landslides, avalanches, or other events that may endanger human life or health. So recently, we also have been obliged to include defense industry and military facilities in those when we have to handle those cases. So we also carry out supervisions of municipalities to ensure that they comply with the legal obligations in emergency preparedness planning, because they have a legal obligation to do risk analysis, to develop emergency plans, to holding exercises and evaluate. So the supervision consists of the document review and personal interviews. And we also support, of course, and coordinate during crisis. So this is how we are trying to combine the role of being supportive and also providing competence briefings and trying to help the municipalities get ready. And we also have the authority to supervise and to go in and control that they are doing what they are supposed to. Yes. So last now, what is the situation and the total defense? And as we all know, the security situation has changed greatly in our areas, and with Sweden and Finland as our new NATO members also, Norway has gone from being a host nation to a possible transit nation. And we have lots of experiences on large multinational exercises in Norway, but then it has been with the luxury of being able to plan a month ahead, load equipment on trucks and train during night and not to affect traffic too much, and also in a sound and peaceful environment. So now we're trying to figure out what are the expectations on the regional and local level in times of war. And military conflict, of course. So as I said before, we have done an analysis on the scenario of war in our region, trying to foresee consequences on the civil society and to identify possible risk reducing measures. So the analysis is reviewed with the municipalities and regional actors, and will also be the scenario in several exercises this year. So one example of an important measure is to make continuity plans, knowing more people are drafted to the armed forces, more people are needed in the civil defense, in healthcare, in police force, and voluntary organizations. So we all need to know what workforce we can expect in times of crisis, and we need to know this in advance. The civil military cooperation is also very important on the regional and the local level. And the 3 Home Guard districts are all represented in our county emergency council. And most of the municipality also have a local emergency council where the local Home Guard area is represented along other emergency agencies. So the Home Guard districts have appointed liaison officers to the county governors in crisis, and the other way around, and also prepared to support local public authorities in emergency situations. So what also happens now is that we are given several new tasks related to the total defense, such as coordinating different initiatives on resource supply. So here in the slide, you can see a few of those examples related to fuel and power, who the work is trying to prioritize who should be prioritized on fuel and where to get it in a situation with lack of resources. So we are working on now what is the next step, what is next in developing the total defense concept on the regional and local level. So we are working on now to trying to understand the consequences of war or even hosting a high number of allied forces, and what will the consequences be on the regional and local level. So we are working with the armed forces on understanding military needs and expectation, and also civil society's ability to support the military operations. But we also need to increase the general understanding and resilience on the regional and local level. So an example is evacuation plans. We need to expand evacuation plans from not only cover peacetime, which we have now due to natural disasters and heavy weather, but also to cover a wartime scenario, which might mean evacuating a vastly larger number of people over a longer period of time. And it also has to include a municipality who will have to receive and temporarily settle citizens on a short time notice. So another need and change and development are the cooperation across national borders. So we already have established several border rescues councils where emergency responders and regional local authority meets in annual meetings, to discuss how to handle crisis or on or close to the Norwegian-Swedish border. But this has been a full peacetime framework, and we now need to plan not only for rescue missions, but also civil military cooperation across the borders in case of war or military conflicts. So we already have established a close cooperation with Sweden and the Swedish regional authorities. So an example is that they have been invited to participate in the digital meetings in our county emergency council a few times only the last year. So these are just examples. There is still a lot of work to be done and new areas to develop and to explore to try to build a resistant and robust total defense concept, both on the regional and also the local level. So sorry about the technical issues in the start of the presentation, but thank you for your attention.
Dziękujemy pani dyrektor za bardzo praktyczne przekazanie
Thank you very
tej
much for this
kluczowej
very
roli, jaką
practical
tutaj
presentation of this key role of the regional governors. In our reality, it's a very important inspiration because the legal provisions allow and task different entities, different organs with particular tasks at different levels. But what was visible, especially the last slide, what we see with regard to this military aspects, but also what you work on as this next step. This is very valuable, I think, a very important example showing us how we can become inspired and try to adapt these solutions in creating this preparedness-based approach in Poland. In the meantime, we have a question on the chat. We have transferred it to you, so we'd be very grateful so that we can have it translated and published on the chat. Thank you very much for those who ask questions. It's also very important to have this active use of the knowledge of our experts. And with us, we have Mr. Ozimek, Deputy Head of Crisis Management in Opole. Welcome. You're a person who is at the same time the Deputy Head of the Crisis Management, who is the Deputy Head of the crisis group mentioned by Director Pawelski. And many years ago, I had the opportunity to have a look at your work within the framework of the development of your project. And I think this was most inspiring to see that these projects that were inspired many years ago are still in place, are developed. And what we want to recommend to you especially is this very practical, very concrete list of examples that show this broad scope of emergency preparedness. Preparedness for all the shocks, all the crises, very broadly understood. And that's what you are doing in practice. So thank you very much. And I want to pass the floor to you because I believe this practical element, this practical dimension is very important. How you do it, and how and in what situations it has proved to be working. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much for this invitation. I hope we can share this presentation because I have also two screens. Yes, I think we can hear it very well. Ladies and gentlemen, just a few words of introduction. What is the Opole Agglomeration? It is the association of units of local government headed by the Opole city, with the city with district rights, 7 rural municipal city communities and some rural communities, which is focused in its work as a strategic planning, spatial planning, development, economic development, and shared activities to attract investors, transfer new technologies, public transport, protection of nature, protection against floods, sports, education, and culture. What is important? The association also has a function of supporting local government, self-territorial units within the framework of the Opole Voivodeship to implement integrated investments. It is over almost 330,000 inhabitants and 2,368 square kilometers, which is over 1/3 of the inhabitants and over 1/4 of the surface of the voivodeship. Why it is necessary? This is the effect of the changing climate situations, more and more hailstorms, floods, spillages, and the amount of damage has appeared in the area of our agglomeration. This is over 60 households destroyed during hailstorm. A tornado, 211 buildings destroyed, a whirlwind, almost 120 buildings damaged in another hailstorm, etc., etc. So, and the main common denominator is that the rescue services do not have, nor the local governments do not have enough material resources. It is tilts, geotextile, sacks or sand, or logistical resources, accommodation and food for victims, heavy transport, construction equipment, or vehicles for transporting people. So there is the idea in order to supplement the current system and to provide the necessary resources that they are able to be provided as soon as possible. So this was the initiative of the head of fire services at the time, Paweł Kielar. After some months of coordination, on the 18th of October 2016, the first agreement of the sort was signed, and the full name is called the Agreement on the Rules of Using Resources, Services, Equipment, etc., in a situation of extraordinary dangers in the Opole agglomeration, and in order to implement the program of this in short, referred to as solidarity in the face of danger. And it was signed officially during the conference, very formally, and it was broadly commented upon in the local and national media. The signing of the agreement was preceded by sessions of the municipal, city and county council confirming the accession of each TSU to the agreement. The signatories were 2 counties, 21 municipalities, including the Opole city, state fire service, the headquarters, the voivodeship headquarters, the association of Opole Agglomeration Regional Directorate of State Forests. The program for improving the functioning of the system, in the framework of which we have this agreement, is a living organism, we can say, that is updated permanently. Firstly, in order to ensure meeting all the needs of our partners, and secondly, to adapt to certain external situations or resources that can supplement our activity and to provide us with this soft component, trainings and getting new skills. We can give an example where in the beginning of the program we have included the development of this reporting and alarming system, so that even in the smallest villages we have a siren with the possibility to provide sign signals. When the Ministry of the Interior is resilient in the face of crisis program that is now being implemented, this need for signaling was changed, remodeled, and we only left mobile sirens that are mounted on cars or transported where they are needed, and alarm centers. If the system, the Ministry of Interior system needs any supplementation, we'll look for possibilities and opportunities to reach as many inhabitants of our municipalities as possible. The main objectives of the agreement are the rights and obligations of the partners, mechanisms for mutual settlements, for management, for target state of the equipment and resources we have at our disposal, and the current state, as well as the tasks of the monitoring committee responsible for evaluating the program. So we started in 2016 with the following resources, having, for example, 264,000 sandbags, with the target being almost twice as many. So these initial resources were continuously updated. Each municipality has a target level they have to meet. That's why it was expanded during the updated version with new materials, with the new elements that will be necessary to support activities. As concerns the main objectives of the agreement, all the partners are expected to cooperate to achieve the purpose of the agreement, seek to secure financial resources, their own financial resources in their own municipal budgets, in order to implement the decisions, provisions of the arrangement, necessary ongoing information exchange, participation in trainings, and at least once a year participation in trainings and exercises concerning the operation of the mutual assistance system organized by the partners. And these trainings have taken place both in the form of applications on the phones, emails, but also in real-life conditions with the participation of different services. The firefighters, Red Cross. Of course, all the crisis management services took place. So you can follow our trainings, our activities, at least some of them are available on YouTube. We had the Storm the Wave trainings. You can also find our materials introducing you to what the system or the project Solidarity in the Face of Danger is. Other tasks of all the partners is in the face of crisis to make available their forces and resources to needs, ensure supervision over the proper implementation of the material scope, monitoring the prompt notification to the monitoring committee in writing of any problems that arise or may arise from the implementation of the agreement. The framework of this agreement, we have also elaborated a procedure for disposal of forces and measures, as well as material and equipment resources, which is based on the on the crisis management system. And for example, in the face of extraordinary events, we're using first the local municipal resources. If it's not enough, we apply to our partners to provide their equipment. What is important is to be able to use the resources and forces of the state firefighting service, which is also beyond the scope of this collaboration, this agreement. This is the structure, management and response structure within the framework of the agreement. It's based on municipalities from each county, another county, two county crisis management centers at the headquarters fire services in the counties. We have the regional center in the Opole of the voivodeship, and within the framework of the agreement, we have two municipalities that are not within the counties can also apply for resources, and the resources will be provided for them. How it works in practice? On the basis of the example of flooding in the municipality A. Imagine there is a flood. The chief of the rescue operation says they need 1,000 sandbags, and 500. The frame of the project, they apply to provide more by other entities. The county command center or the municipal command center have the access to the knowledge of these resources and materials. Part of these resources are stored at their headquarters, so it makes them more available. As soon as the application is received, it is checked where these resources physically are, and they're provided by the community available, or if not, by their own local transport of the municipality that needs them. What does this agreement offer us from a local government perspective? In the first place, this formal security. We have the agreement, we have the forms, standard structures. We know what is the amount of resources we know. There's a possibility to provide settlement and recovery of deficiencies. We have a guarantee of mutual and solidary support. And this solidarity between local governments is very strongly highlighted, has been very strongly highlighted over the years, and it has proved to be working really, really well. With regard to this mutual support of all the partners, we have increased resources through external funding, but also we can increase the resources thanks to materials that can be used but belong to other municipalities, which provides us with the possibility of savings, because we do not need to all the equipment storage facilities. And the agreement does not replace the crisis management system and national rescue and firefighting system. It just complements them. A few examples, maybe. For example, in the first year of functioning of the agreement, we provided help. For example, there was a collision between a Pendolino passenger train with a truck. The municipality of Ozimek provided evacuation sites, beds and sleeping bags brought from Opole in Czarnowodze in 2018. The municipality of Dobrzyn Wielki provide their high-capacity pump to the city of Czarnowodze. Case of very strong winds, Kolonowice in the Łubiany municipality, 13 buildings were damaged, and the municipality didn't have enough tilts, so tilts from additional. The best example is the assistance provided by the city of Opole that was itself fighting against flood in 2024. And within this program, we provided 40,000 sandbags, 400 bulk bags, and lots of lesser materials, spades, torches, sleeping bags, to the places that were flooded and required their inhabitants to be evacuated. Additionally, what was implemented in the scope of the project, the most important, I think, implementation was the expertise with regard to the flood fighting equipment, with providing information about the general characteristics of the hydrographic network, embankments, protection embankments within the area of our agglomeration, as well as their analysis, the analysis of their technical state, investments on the equipment, tasks that are still to be included, and the crisis places. So the places that are most vulnerable to flooding were ongoing quick action needed to provide protection. We had very positive feedback from the firefighting brigade after last year's flooding, which in their activity was based, among others, on the provisions of this expertise with regard to different municipalities. Additionally, it has to be mentioned that all the materials were standardized, and speaking of the Solidarity in the Face of Crisis project, for example, the roofing equipment is standardized. We have carpentry equipment, hammers, etc. So we know that if we refer to municipality A, we know exactly what kind of equipment and what quantity they have, and what quantity and type of equipment we have to give back. So these standards really help for us. Was the program to ensure better project for the years 2014-2020, and in 2020 it was updated, which was accepted by resolution of a general meeting of members of the association. What does it include? The program is a huge elaboration with lots of data, which was compiled on the basis of the analysis of dangers and the methodology, on the basis with the different of the state's rescue and firefighting service, analysis of the Opole Agglomeration, preparedness for emergency measures, organization of crisis management centers in the Opole Agglomeration. The centers were treated here very broadly. So each workstations related to crisis management in each municipality were taken into account as centers, because it is through them that all the information passes with regard to any crisis, providing warning sirens with the ability to broadcast sound and voice messages, or based on SMS notification. Apart from that, providing municipalities with equipment, materials, and infrastructure, including investment needs of the municipalities, training activities, information education campaigns, proposals to improve the functioning of the system, and the concept for integrated project that was implemented or is now currently being implemented. Since we have received some external funding that we decided to use, and we have prepared a project in order to provide purchase equipment for disaster recovery in the Opole Agglomeration. It is now in the formal assessment, and it envisages buying the equipment and also educational measures for 21 municipalities, 2 counties in the Opole Agglomeration. Within the scope of this project, we're planning to buy 3 electric aggregates, 36 kilowatts, smaller power generators, signaling system, rescue boats, pneumatic and high-capacity pumps on trailers, movable water tanks, especially for fires in the forests, motor pumps, mobile sirens that can be mounted on cars, or just set around cables or food provision cars, tablets, equipments to fill sands, water tanks that after we received information about the poisoning of the water in the public systems, we decided that we need tanks for potable water. The entire worth of the project, 15 million Polish zloty. The subsidies over 40 million. Our own contribution, 757,000 Polish zlotys. What are the plans for the future? Well, implementation of the partnership program, adaptation of the program to the Civil Protection and Civil Defense Act, which will be possible when all the regulations based on the act will be ready. Update of the program, trainings, and all the more with different local authorities and services. Seeking funds for further implementation and sharing this with others. Thank you very much for your attention. If there are any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you very much for your very interesting and very important presentation. I'm very happy that you have been able to show the really tangible results and show the partnership in a very practical way. In the practice, we talk a lot about local cooperation, but it's very important to show how it's really implemented in practice and what are the benefits of all the partner entities. And of course, those results wouldn't be possible if everyone worked individually. Okay, from Opole, we are moving away to Kristiansand Municipality. This is where
Sigurd Paulsen
is asked to give a speech. He's the head of emergency preparedness. It is called translated into English, emergency preparedness, and we'll see what are the activities on the level of the city for the safety and to prepare. This preparedness term is very important, to prepare us, the citizens, for crisis. So what are the activities for preparedness, safety on the management level of the city? Sigurd, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, it's okay. It's great.
It's okay. Thank you. Okay, crisis. My name is Sigurd Paulsen, as you mentioned, and I'm going to say something about how we are organized, our goals and tasks, building local social security and preparedness, and how we also prepare exercises and cooperate across sectors in different scenarios. So Kristiansand is a city and municipality in Agder County. The city is 5th largest and the municipal is the 6th largest in Norway. We have around 160,000 inhabitants. And we were in cooperation of Søgne and Sogndal into Kristiansand in 2020. The municipality are responsible for primary education, outpatient health services, seniors, citizen services, welfare and other social services, zoning, economic development, and municipal roads and utilities. The municipality is governed by a municipal council of directly elected representatives. The mayor is indirectly elected by a vote of the municipal council. The responsibility for public safety and preparedness, the legal requirements is the Act on Municipal Preparedness Duty, the Act on Health and Social Preparedness, and we also have a lot of other laws like Infection Control Act, Pollution Act, Working Environment Act, and so on. The goals that we have for public safety and preparedness is to prepare to face crisis and serious incidents, to work systematically with social security and preparedness, to contribute to ensure that residents have good self-preparedness, systematic work with climate adaptation, and of course the national security is changing, and requires attention to critical infrastructure and critical social functions. And threat to global public health shows that we must have a good health preparedness. Here is how we are organized. In the bottom, you see the tactical executing level. That is the community area services. We employ about 10,500 people in the municipality. And we do health and social services, school, kindergarten, and so on, culture and citizen services, urban and regional development, technology and organization, and strategy and finance. In the middle, you see the green boxes. That is the operational coordination level. It is a working committee for crisis management board that can, we have a secretariat, we have a communication unit, public service centers, and we also can put up one or more evacuee and relatives centers if there is a big event that happens. On the strategic superior level, you have the Municipal Crisis Management Board, where the CEO is leading this board, together with the GM from the community area services. And the spokesman for the board is the mayor of the city. And the city council, they are informed when something happens, and they take decisions afterhand when we can prepare such decision for them. The Municipal Crisis Management Act works like you see on the figure. It sets requirements for public safety and emergency preparedness through municipal preparedness obligations. And the regulations on municipal emergency preparedness requires the content, involvement, follow-up, and updating of comprehensive risk assessment. That means that everyday events should the community area or services, they should deal with that. But when unwanted incident beyond the capacity in ordinary routine and basic happens, then we are into the municipal preparedness and obligation. And of course, also when security policies, crisis, and armed conflicts are happening. More about the municipal preparedness obligation. This is all the services that is critical for our city, and the municipality has to ensure our coordinated social security work, such as protect the population and the social values in short and long term, contribute to strengthen and maintain critical community functions, provide an overview, knowledge, and awareness of social security challenges and the effects these will have on the population and local communities, reduce risk and vulnerability through an emphasis on preventive work, and contribute to good preparedness and strategic crisis management and skills. And of course, ensure cooperation with internal and external actors. So here is the principles. That means that when it comes to responsibility, whoever has the daily responsibility has also responsibility in crisis. Proximity, a crisis should be handled at the lowest level possible level. Equality, the task should be solved as similar as possible to daily organization. And when it comes to coordination, the municipal should ensure the best possible cooperation with relevant actors. So our conclusion from the comprehensive risk analysis says that we have to build civil protection and self-preparedness based on changes in national security. We have to do climate adaptation because of extreme weather. We have to be aware of outage of electricity and aircom. And of course, unwanted intentional events can happen. And also serious accidents from industry and train or airport or ferry, an extensive outbreak of infection, and at last, drug shortage. That also happens very often. We have a cross-sectorial working group, so that is planning exercises, and then we use a program we call Strategy Finder. Here you can see on the figure 5 groups with representation from NGOs, critical system owners, community healthcare, hospital and rescue services, and also regional municipality. The different groups discuss what will be most critical in a situation with extreme weather, snow and hurricane over 3 to 4 days, and they come up with 5 to 8 sentences for each group based on the experience they have. Here it's not easy to see because it's very small, but when they all put up the input based on the scenario, with heavy snow and hurricane, the next task they do in the program is actually to insert arrows from their own statement to other statement in the program. Then you will find a very complex systemic map of connections and influences between the statements. So it looks actually like this. It's very complex. It's a system mapping. So you can see the various statements will be influenced or will influence other statements from the groups. This can be analyzed in the Strategic Finder program and provide insight across sectors and agencies, so that the cross-sectorial working group can make common strategies and actions. So you can take out the most important connections between the most critical events that occur in a scenario and how vicious circles can reinforce negative events. So when they have the insight of this system mapping, they can find out what to do. And here you have the output from the cross-sectorial working group. The best strategy on the upper right to establish a good basic preparedness, that is from 1 to 10, got 9.3. The lowest one is number 53, insight into each other's contingency plans, right down to the technical level. That was not very important for everyone, but it was also on the list. We had this discussion in August in this working group, and in the weather we had 5th to 9th of January. We had heavy snow and wind, and more than 18,000 was affected by outage of electricity. The consequences was power failure, ECOM failure, road closure, and closure of schools and kindergartens. And the learnings we had from that was that providing information to the population is challenging when telecom and ECOM fail. Cross-sector interaction is challenging and becomes significantly worse in event of an ECOM failure. And basic preparedness is at all levels is most important for good handling. And we need more joint training on learning points. The municipality must also prepare to be able to establish security points towards the population. On the map, you can see all the red lines is the outage of electricity that also gives consequences for ECOM. We also got something out of another cross-sectorial working group. That was the need of better warning for flooding. So we developed a map application with real-time measures of rivers, so that people can use it to know when flooding will make cascading effects. So you see if it's green, it's okay. If it's yellow, then you have to make notice of it. And when it comes to orange or red, then it will have cascading effects. Thank you.
Dziękujemy bardzo za przekazanie tego spojrzenia na to, w jaki sposób też aktywnie
Thank you very much for showing us this active way of using this local potential of local residents. And also the last example showed us how we can make use of something that has actually already been a very present element, like the access to applications, to mobile, to the internet, to spread information. But we can also share our experience here in this respect, that last year actually, we had a very tragic experience with flooding in the south of Poland, and these solutions were very good on this first stage when we need to spread the news, because when the extreme is already experienced by everyone, we have no connection then, no internet connection. And then it is too late, because this kind of connection is a failure at this time. So this is why we have to build many channels. We have to spread the information before as a prevention, and we have to try to make this information available as a way of building this preparedness. So this element that is making this preparedness better, of better quality. Thank you very much for this example. And now we're going back to Poland, to Konin.
I panie Pawle, no zobaczmy.
Mr. Paweł Figurski, Head of the Department of Security and Crisis Management in Konin. So, Mr. Paweł, we're going to share another type of experiences for collaboration, because one can say here, as we are listening to all these presentations from Poland and Norway, that the word preparedness, being ready, collaboration go hand in hand. In short, there is no good preparedness without collaboration, so it's difficult to have it effective if it's not focused on what motivates all of us and what connects us. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much. I want to show some of our local collaboration examples, and I'm going to show you how it looks in collaboration, this particular situation of Konin, which is both the municipality and the county. And I'm going to show on this example how our collaboration with the neighbors looks. Just a second. Let me show the presentation. I hope you can see it well.
Szanowni Państwo,
chciałbym
Państwu opowiedzieć.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let me say a little about the collaboration within the Konin area. Konin is a city with the county rights, so it serves the double function of the municipality and the urban county, which has both advantages and disadvantages. But let me present it more in detail, how it looks in the field of collaboration with different partners from different institutions. So my department, the one I had with my collaborators, were responsible for coordination of the work between our partners. We're also trying to be the main information collection center. If also from the residents, if they want to contact us directly, our partners are the state institutions, state fire service, state police, but also our local municipal police, volunteer fire brigades, all the inspections, agencies, services, so the sanitary veterinary inspection, plant protection inspection, also military administration. We have a military recruitment center that we collaborate with in our city, for example, by promoting military service in Poland. Also private security agencies that are also our partners, schools, all education related institutions, universities, but also social services, especially in order to provide support for people with the social economic problems or in the crisis of homelessness. So this is the example I wanted to show in the beginning. Here we have our partners, participating in the training. I'm going to say more about later, but I hope we can say more about in the future. We do not treat our partners in any special way. We want to treat our relations very directly, which makes the exchange of information very quick, especially decision making. So we try to be as informal as possible, very direct. As concerns the State Fire Service, I want to show you our Chiefs of Fire Service because, as I say, these are local city boys who know the specificity of our city, because it's not always like this in the country. Sometimes, of course, I don't want to criticize the competences of our national services, but sometimes in a municipality or a county you have a chief of service who is from some other place, which of course is not necessarily a disadvantage, but if it's a local person, of course it provides a lot of additional benefits because it makes it easier, makes it more accessible to make certain decisions when we discuss the specificity of crisis or the situation in a city. There are two facilities. There is the Warta River that goes through the river, and it's a little bit difficult to cross it. So in the face of crisis, if these communication channels are blocked, then it might provide problematic for reaction. So we have two different facilities on two sides of the city. So we're very well prepared, very well equipped fire service compared to our needs. This is an example of the participation of our firefighters, but both from the state as well as volunteer fire brigades in all Polish training in Konin with regard to the flooding dangers. Here we have representatives of the Polish forests, but also me and my colleague from the county we also participated actively. Very good training, very interesting. We had units from all the country participating, great training in logistics, in accommodation, in order to host all these units, but most of these works were handled by the State Fire Service. We collaborated with them with regard, for example, to the decision-making games and the participation of our volunteer fire brigades in these trainings. Apart from that, here's the training we organized as crisis management. We called it Nowine, as one of the districts of Konin. We wanted it to be as realistic as possible. We have a coal railway that we can cut off from the traffic. We used a train. We used a bus that we could use, and it was a simulated disaster, traffic disaster, with the train hitting the bus. And this training was organized as a surprise. Very few people knew it's going to take place, which has both advantages and disadvantages. Once during one of these meetings, our medical rescue team, just passing by, which was so well simulated, they even made a real injection because they were absolutely sure that this was that these artificial wounds were so well made. In this particular case, the services didn't know it's going to happen. It looked really realistic. So what we had as the administration, we supported especially the provision of accommodation and a drone. The one that made this photo you see is part of the equipment of our crisis management center. Not the police and the fire brigade do not have it, though it is planned. Right now we support them as a center of crisis management in this regard. We also provide them with traffic management, but also organizing the bus transport. Our local public transport enterprise didn't know about the training, so they had to adapt quickly. So the whole training we organized was also meant to show how this collaboration really looks at this lowest level
różnego rodzaju.
with
Dlaczego o
regard
tym mówię?
to
Dlatego, że tak
different
naprawdę tutaj
services.
w Polsce są
Why am I
taką
speaking
jakby
about it?
drabiną, która
Because
ma
in
nam
Poland,
pomóc
these services
dojść do
form
szczytu i do
some sort of a
rozwiązania tego
ladder
problemu. I tymi
that help us
podróżnikami tego
solve these
systemu
kind of
są między
problems.
innymi właśnie te służby, inspekcje,
And
straże.
we have different
Tylko
inspections,
czasami
different
mam wrażenie, że
services
zawodzą
that
te
are elements of it,
poplecznice.
but sometimes
I
the
tutaj tak
connections
naprawdę
fail.
mamy instytucje państwowe,
So we
które
have these
w
state
jakiś
institutions
sposób
here
współpracują z nami w
that
zakresie zarządzania
collaborate with
kryzysowego,
us
ale też
in
odległość
this
wobec
crisis
naszych
management,
samorządowców, czyli naszych wójtów, burmistrzów czy
but their
starostów,
dependency on our
prezydentów
local
miast
authorities, the
jest
mayors,
powiedzmy bardzo
city
iluzoryczna.
presidents,
Tak naprawdę
is
ich odległość jest tylko i
close to
wyłącznie
none.
pionowa. W jakiś sposób
So
też mamy wpływ na wydawanie im
they
poleceń,
are
ale i
only
tak to musi się odbyć po
dependent
prostu
on their own
współpracy z
authorities,
jednostkami
and everything has
państwowymi.
to be consulted
Dlatego
with
ta
these state
współpraca na
institutions.
poziomie
That's why this
lokalnym jest tak
collaboration, this
istotna,
local level is
ponieważ
so
to właśnie
important,
nam pozwala na
because
wymianę
this
tych
helps
informacji, na
us to
przyspieszanie
exchange
decyzji,
information,
na
to make the
uczestnictwo
decisions
i
faster,
jak najszybsze reagowanie na
to
te zagrożenia kryzysowe.
participate
Dlatego
and
między
take
innymi
action as
wspieramy
soon
naszą
as possible.
Państwową Straż Pożarną.
That's why we
Jeżeli jest
support the
taka
state
potrzeba
fire service if there
w
is a need.
zakresie właśnie między innymi udziału dronu, czy wspierania
For example, when they need a drone or they need some other equipment, or even financial support, it's
Tutaj
possible
macie
or
Państwo
necessary.
przykład tego,
Here you
jak
see
przy
another
znikomej widoczności wspieraliśmy
example, for
naszą
example, with
Państwową Straż
very
Pożarną
bad
przy
seeing
gaszeniu
conditions, we
pożarów,
supported
wykorzystaniu drona z
the fire
termowizją,
brigade
przy
using our
szukaniu zażewiechowca.
thermovision drone,
Tutaj rzeczywiście bardzo duże
seeking the
zagrożenie,
source of fire,
które zaangażowało nie tylko jednostki z terenu miasta Konina, ale
and
też z jednostek
disengaged not only
z
the
naszych
units from the
sąsiednich
city,
gmin,
but also from
powiatów.
neighboring
Tutaj nawet z dowodzeniem
districts,
informacją
counties, and
przejął pan zastępca
municipalities.
komendanta głównego
The deputy
Państwowej Straży
head
Pożarnej. Tutaj
of
mieliśmy takie
the
zagrożenie,
state fire
które
service was in
obejmowało
charge.
no, teren trochę
Here we
większy
had a danger
niż teren
that
Konina. Tutaj
encompassed
rzeczywiście
the
parę powiatów.
territory
Na szczęście nie
larger
było
than
zagrożenia
Konin
bezpośredniego dla
itself.
mieszkańców,
There was no
ponieważ ta chmura
direct danger
lotnicza
for the
poprzedniego
inhabitants because this
kraju
cloud,
nielegalnego wysypiska dość wysoko była w przestrzeni powietrznej
because
i
it
skierowała
was
się bardziej w takie
not
otwarte
too close to the city,
tereny, ale
and
jednak
the wind moved
to
it to more
podaje
open
przykład tego,
area.
że właściwie
But
żadne
in giving this
zagrożenie
example
nie
that
zamknie
no
się w pewnych
danger
grupach,
will
przynajmniej duże,
close
zamykajmy się
itself,
w
no
jakimś
serious danger
mechanizmie
will
bez
close itself
współpracy
in very
z
limited
naszymi
borders.
partnerami,
That's why we have
chociażby
to be ready
służby
to
inspekcji
work, to
strażnej,
collaborate
też
with
naszych
our
operatorów
partners,
z
with the
samorządów
fire brigades, other local governments.
dookoła. Właściwie nie jesteśmy w stanie reagować w sposób
We
poprawny.
cannot.
Co prawda ustawodawca mówi o tym, że jeżeli się zdarzenie przekracza granicę dwóch powiatów,
That's
w naszym
why
wypadku właściwie
if
Krzyżówka przekracza
the act
granicę
says that
Konina,
if the danger
przekracza tę
encompasses
granicę
the
dwóch
territory
powiatów,
of more than two
koordynacją zajmuje
counties,
się
then the
administracja
coordination is
wojewódzka, ale
handled
w naszym przypadku
by
bardzo często zdarza się tak, że
the
radzimy sobie
the
dość lokalnie.
administration
Tutaj
of the
mamy też
voivodeship.
dobrą
But
współpracę z
mostly we
administracją
act
wojewódzką
on our own. We have very good collaboration
mają
with
do
the
nas
voivodeship
zaufanie, jeżeli chodzi o
administration.
takie reagowanie na takie zdarzenia. Tutaj rzeczywiście macie Państwo przykład tego, jak wygląda już reagowanie dość
Here you have
drobniejsze i gdzie ta koordynacja jest
the example
niezbędna, ponieważ
where this
mówię,
coordination
w
is
przypadku
necessary.
pożarów, tak jak widzicie Państwo, pożarów domów, niestety
For example, in the case of
zdarzenie kryzysowe nie
fires in
kończy się na ugaszeniu
houses,
pożaru.
the crisis does not
Tutaj
stop
w tym
with
wypadku pojawiły
putting
się
out the
problemy
fire.
dotyczące
For example,
komunikacji i
here we had a
wstrzymania
problem
ruchu
with
na
communication
bezpiecznych
blocking the
w
traffic
naszym
on
mieście. Później
quite a
pojawiają się
busy
też
street in our
problemy
city.
związane z
Then we have
co zrobić z
problems with
mieszkańcami
what to do with the residents
takiej
of
kamienicy, czy
such
zapewnienie
buildings,
w jakiegoś
how to
możliwości
ensure them
pobytu lub przetrwania przez ten okres, w którym oni
the
odzyskają
possibility
swoje, że tak powiem, normalne warunki
to
bytowe.
stay somewhere before
Akurat w
their
tym
house is
wypadku tych
brought back
mieszkańców dużo nie
to
było,
the
ale
proper
mówię, i
conditions.
tak
In
problem
this case,
rzeczywiście
there were not
pojawia
many
się.
residents,
Tutaj
but
po
this
prawej
is the
stronie
problem
widzicie
that
Państwo
arises
przykład
every now and then.
odpalania regularnego
For example, to the
drzewa,
right, we
które
have
w dość
a regular
starym
fire
prawie, że tak powiem,
that is put by quite an old tree. It's
przeszkadza
almost
przy
of
rozwoju
historic value, but
fragmentów miasta
some people don't like it,
niektórym mieszkańcom, więc
and
dlatego
are regularly
zastosowane jest
trying to put fire to it. And
dość starej części zabudowy
this is
starostwiskiej,
an
która
old part
mogła mieć
of the old town, which
duże
might be really
zdarzenie
dangerous
generujące dość duże problemy, a zwłaszcza zagrożenie dla
for the
naszych
city and even
mieszkańców.
for the life of our residents.
Jeżeli chodzi o policję, tutaj
With
rzeczywiście
regard to
też
the
mocna
state police,
współpraca.
we also
Państwo
collaborate
pokazują
very
na
closely
taką
here.
komendę miejską
This is the
policji.
view
Komenda była
on our
wojewódzka, ponieważ Konin był
command
miastem
center.
wojewódzkim.
Konin used to be a voivodeship
Komenda
capital in the
wojewódzka
past.
jest
This
też
is our
siedzibą naszej
ex-voivodeship
Straży Miejskiej,
headquarters,
które
also of
znajduje się
our
centrum monitoringu.
municipal police. We have a monitoring
Nasza
center,
współpraca z
and
policją
our
też tutaj jest
collaboration
bardzo dobra. Muszę też podkreślić,
here
tak
with
w
the police is
przypadku,
really, really good.
Państwowej Straży Pożarnej. Dlaczego mówię bardzo
And for
dobra?
example,
Dlatego, że
same as with the
naprawdę
state fire
z
service.
naszymi
Why am I saying that?
funkcjonariuszami, z naszymi
Because
pracownikami
with
jesteśmy już na
our
tyle. To
officers,
bardzo
we are on
skracza
name basis. So it makes this whole decision-making process really, really quick. When we don't have to be formal, when we don't have to use all these titles and papers and all these forms, it makes it really faster to make decisions, to identify problems and solutions to them. These are our chiefs of police. Until recently, we had 3 of them, and all the 3 of them live in Konin or very close to the city. To the left is our new chief of police, who has been in charge for the last number of months, but I know that he wants to collaborate closely with the local governments, which makes us really happy because the police is a service that is present all the time on our streets, and it generates. It's just thanks to them that we have a relatively safe city. Here, some less formal photos that show how this collaboration works between the police headquarters to provide shared information for the residents. Our main idea is that a well-informed citizen is much calmer, is much more rational in his or her decisions. That doesn't create panic, doesn't make up some stories, doesn't create fake news, because such residents know what the facts are. So we do not double the information. So if one institution creates some news on any danger or any information concerning, for example, some interesting facts for the residents regard to the safety, the other institutions just link it or create some additions to it, but not repeat it if it's necessary. Here I want to show how our collaboration on traffic regulation, the road traffic regulation works. I've just received a new piece of information that soon, yet again, we'll collaborate with regard to seeking people who are homeless and supporting them in the situation of frost. Recently, last Saturday, thanks to collaboration with the police and the local residents, we managed to help one person in the crisis of homelessness who's really in a serious condition already because of the temperature. Here we have another problem that the representatives of local government in our country know very well. That is the city coroner problem. This is the problem of the county heads of counties. We don't have. These are people who have to state the death, especially in situations of suicides or accidents. Also, people who are homeless or victims of certain disasters. We do have the city coroner in our city, and thanks to good collaboration, for example, with the medical circles, which is really not easy to find the city coroner. If you know, if some of you who are listening to this presentation have no problem in finding a person like this, well then, congratulations, we are really lucky. Because, as I said, we have very good collaboration with the medical circles. Because we have doctors that collaborate with us with regard to the military qualification. Crisis teams, I want to highlight that these are teams. Because in our country, we like to have this staff. We do not have any staff, any military command. I don't like this word. We have teams. I don't like these commands where there is one person who tells others what to do. And in a team, the team I associate with people who listen to each other, not just one way. This is a huge difference because if we have a crisis management, if there is any inspection or service and they decide that they are more important than others, there will always, the reaction to crisis will be longer and the effects will not be as good as in a situation when we have a team. The teams are no new idea, of course. I'm sure you remember this King Arthur's round circle where everybody was equal and we are based on the same rules. So even if we have the mayor of the city, this gentleman with a beard, then we have his representative for social issues, and never in these teams they participate as the representatives of their function, of their office, but they're just regular members of the group, solving problems, taking part in discussion. So this is what that there is no command centers like in the army. Of course, this is necessary, but we are not the army. We're not uniformed services. This is civil planning because we're civilians, and everybody has their role on the team. So this is our collaboration, providing help for people who are homeless. Very often these are people who have their houses, they live in, they have heating provided. So very often we find them, or we know where to bring them, where to find them, asking about their material situation. If there is a need, we provide them with food, with clothing, with thermal blankets, trying to help them, for example, together with the municipal social aid center, with the police. So in this collaboration, here we have another work, which is the registering of gatherings and protests. Here it was supposed to be small, but like all the farmers' protests in most European countries, these farmers' protests were really numerous, with many participants, for example, blocking the main street in the city by the protesting farmers and hunters, and a huge collaboration here. I'm very grateful for this collaboration with the police, which, thanks to their negotiators and people who have experience in handling the organizers of the protests, it always works really, really well without any violence, any damage to the space area. And as you can see, we have a full tank of equipment. We had people who brought tires to burn them, people who brought stones. None of these things were used by angry farmers. So it's all thanks to our police. This is another example, the sole photo of a search of people who are lost. Here we only have a thermovision photo to see how it works. There was a lady who left her home and was found. I'm only providing, of course, it's vulnerable. So this is the only photo that we can provide for obvious reasons, but these drones are often used for people who have been lost, with, of course, different effect, but luckily most of the time these people come back on their own. Sometimes not even the drone can find them. So very often the greatest success here can be achieved with police dogs. In fighting, people have moved away from their homes. Municipal police, we have, I think, around 35 employees. Over 20 of them are our city policemen, great partners in prevention. This is the new chief of service, providing clothing. They also assist the police, supporting people, for example, in the crisis of homelessness, people who are not dressed properly or drunk, and they are provided with these sets with the necessary information. If there is a need, they provide any help that is necessary. Here you can see my colleague, Miss Kasia, great prevention specialist. Together we have collaborated in the meetings with seniors or in schools. We've been collaborating for around 20 years, so we have really great team, really great communication between ourselves, and this provides us with a great possibility to shorten this distance, to eliminate the formalities in the contact, because then great teams are created, great decision and implementation teams are formed. And this is what helps us function best at the municipal level. These are our main tasks. For example, the preventionists, but also the municipal police in the top right corner, for example, looking for illegal rubbish dumps. In the left bottom corner, our municipal guards, police, women, and the monitoring center, which is the effective collaboration between the municipal police and us as a crisis center, because we are financing its modernization and they are doing the work, they are manning it. Volunteer fire department, everybody knows this is the best and closest functioning rescue service. In Konin, we have 6 units like this in our state system, well equipped, well prepared, and our main task here is to collaborate with them in terms of financing, providing them with the necessary equipment. But also, this is the state fire service and the volunteer fire brigade are only in any way dependent on or subordinated to our mayors, because in terms of police, it's vertical. So our chiefs of police services do not accept, so to speak, the authority of the mayors, but they are our services. So we need to help them in terms of finances, in terms of decision making, with the equipment if possible, recruiting new members, because the more firefighters, the more policemen we have, then of course we can, not unlike Norway, that most of these services are municipal, and the coordination, I guess, is much easier. So I'm a great fan of Norwegian solutions in this respect. In Poland, unfortunately, it's still more vertical. I hope the new Act of Parliament will provide us with new possibilities here, but also there are new threats, new worries, but it's still in the process of preparation. Here we have our volunteers, for example, the bird flu. They helped us collect the dead bodies for examination. In the lower corner, we have our shared activities with regard to the presentation of coordination of different events, for example, the sailing picnic, because we also support the police and our local clubs with regard to safety. So here we have celebration of the fire brigade. We have an example where the state and the volunteer fire services celebrate one of their important holidays. How important these services are for our city. This is our main historic city hall in the old town, because these services really do take care of our security, and without them, the city of Konin would never be as secure as it is. Unfortunately, we have to finish. Okay, I'm already closing in on the finish. Just let me mention the military administration that we collaborate with, for example, in military recruitment qualifications, because this is also a task of the counties, testing the local man if service. Here we have the with military events, but I also want to mention this great collaboration with our schools, organizing lessons, presenting crisis management systems in high schools and universities, and here other institutions, collaboration with local governments. We have this form of collaboration that is the Konin Agglomeration, 2 counties and 14 municipalities in the area, and one of the elements is the collaboration in terms of security. We have an agreement signed with all these local governments, the police, in order to ensure better security. We're going to adapt it to the new Act of Parliament within the area of our agglomeration, where we will try to implement shared teams, shared solutions to enjoy better security. In our territory, I mentioned the monitoring already. Our Facebook profile that we inform and run together with our services. And this is the last slide showing the situation, the flooding danger in the Konin area, where this is the danger that helps integrate the services very closely with regard to combating dangers. Sorry, I spoke too long. Thank you very much for attention. Thank you very much, because I think that when we show this collaboration for security, I think, since I know Mr. Paweł Figurski in person, it's difficult to squeeze in 20 minutes, because there are too many forms of collaboration This is just a sample of what is done in Konin, so really invite you from Konin to a 30,000 strong city of Ringerike in Norway. We have Mr. Magnus Nyholm with us, who is the head of the emergency preparedness, and who will tell us about the activities taken from the perspective of the municipality, but from Norway. Magnus, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Jak? Słyszymy? Bardzo dobrze. Yes, can hear you.
I will show you a presentation. I hope it will work this time. Just a second.
Ja tylko podpowiem, że mamy prezentację z kolejnego miasta norweskiego, a więc to jest ten sam poziom, który mieliśmy.
I will say just a few words that this is another Norwegian example, like from Kristiansand, the management on the city.
We can see
the presentation.
Your screen. You should switch to
presentation mode, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. So thank you so much for the invitation. So let me share to you some of our learnings about collaboration in handling crisis and our experience working with self-preparedness among citizens in Ringerike Municipality. My name is Magnus Nyholm. I'm head of emergency preparedness in Ringerike Municipality, that is in Buskerud County, Norway. And I also have a background in the Swedish Armed Forces, United Nations, and I work with technical services and a little in the health services and organizational development. So here we can see Ringerike Municipality in the center of Hønefoss is located approximately 50 kilometers northwest of Oslo in the county of Buskerud. Yes, I start with some facts about Ringerike. It has 31,500 inhabitants, and it's 1,552 square kilometers and approximately 2,200 employees in the organization. It's a typical forest municipality with mountains and also big rivers and big lakes. And a special challenge with Ringerike is geological challenges with, for example, large deposits of quicklime in and around the municipality center and the city of Hønefoss. And here are some examples of big crises we have experienced the last 3 years in our municipality. Of course, most of the crisis is related to extreme weather, and we can see that it occur more and more the last few years. But I'm going to present to you our experience about the power of collaboration in times of crisis. And I can see here right in the beginning of the presentation that we as a municipality with 31,500 citizens, we cannot handle a big crisis as a municipality without a wide network of collaboration partners or without volunteer organizations. And as the second part of the presentation, I'm going to present our strategy to develop preparedness among the citizens, and I hope that our examples are applicable regardless of types of crises that may occur in your region or municipality. Our evaluation reports and our experience from crisis handling is that with good handling, good communication, and good dialogue, we can improve the municipality reputation among the citizens. That's maybe not the first thing you think about when you are in the middle of a crisis. So as you can see here, one of our citizens said, I thought I'd never say it, but I'm proud to live in Ringerike Municipality. And that was one of our former neighbors, very, very critical to the municipality. So let's hope. First, I present a little about our experience from the extreme weather Hans and how our collaboration network helped us handling the crisis. And in the first week of August 2026 came extreme weather, Hans from the east with heavy rainfall and in the north of our area. And all this rain was going down from the mountains into our rivers, and it was measured approximately 250 cubic meters of water per second in the river of Storelva in the center of Hønefoss, compared to less than 100, which normally flows at this time of the year. And never before has so much rainfall been recorded in the catchment area, and never had so much water flow been recorded in our rivers, Hønefoss. And the Norwegian Waterways Energy Directorate's models or forecasts for this type of scenario around Hønefoss had to be developed within the first 24 hours, because we didn't have experience or we didn't have risk analysis of and water flow models that handled this amount of water. From the crisis management team on Wednesday, the 9th August, it was decided, and the decision was that we should initiate the evacuation of properties within the 500 flood level at Ramselva, Begna, and Storelva. And our worst case scenario in our risk analysis report was estimated to evacuate more than 2,000 citizens. And the next decision was initiate or prepare evacuation based on known landslide, quicklay, risk areas associated with Ramselva, Begna, and Storelva. It's our rivers that meets in the center of Hønefoss. And our risk analysis report estimated a worst case scenario of more than 5,000 citizens that has to be evacuated. And here is a map over evacuated areas in the center of the city of Hønefoss, and the area was evacuated because of the risk of quick-laid landslides. And our risk analysis worst case cover or had estimated the risk of erosion from this amount of water. And the challenge was to think beyond the worst case and do it fast. And here you can see is the center of the city, and two rivers meet in the center, and we have meandering rivers, as you can see, with houses close up to the river. And the gray water you can see in the picture it's from a big landslide upstream. And we were also afraid that this could happen also in the center of the city. So we had to deal with several parallel crises at the same time. We had a flood crisis, water in properties, isolated areas. We had a power plant crisis, flooded electric plants below the waterline, and we had a communication problem, extreme need for information to the organization and to the citizens. And we also have this evacuation work with 2,500 evacuated from various areas, most central parts of Hønefoss. We also have spillage crisis, breaks in water and sewage lines, destroyed pumping stations for water and sewage, and also transport crisis, of course, with damage and flooded roads, and everything on the same time. And now, further in the presentation, I'm going to pick up a few examples from the evaluation report from the handling of extreme weather Hans regarding to the evacuation process. We evacuated 2,500 people from the center of Hønefoss to private alternatives and to evacuation centers. And those who did best and needed less help from the helpers in the evacuation process had a wide network of friends and family where private evacuation was possible. And they also had a plan to bring medicines and other important things with them when they had to leave their homes in a hurry. And those who used the municipality website and communication channels for obtaining information from the authorities. They did well under the evacuation. And those who had challenges being evacuated, and those who needed more help in the evacuation process had a small network, of course, of friends and families, and they lived often alone, with mental challenges, and those with internal family problems, and those who have trouble with communicating, for example, with insurance companies and other sources. Also immigrants with little integration into society. And the learning is it's very important to reach out to this group and have control over this group when there is a normal condition, of course, and no crisis. And it's a picture of some staff of our psychological team who works at the evacuation centers. Yes, and now I'm going to say a little about collaboration and working with crisis management team. So we have, of course, proactive working methodology. We think big early in the handling of the crisis, and that's our main focus. And from the risk analysis, from the left, to the handling of the event, and to the right, to the actual event and dealing with the consequences. So our policy or strategy is to push the big red button as early as possible, and we'll be prepared to push an even bigger button if necessary. And as heard before, Sigurd from Kristiansand have earlier in this program described about the responsibilities and the organization of the municipality crisis management team, and Ringerike have also a similar organization, and they have the same responsibilities, of course. And here's a little a slide of presentation, but here is a crisis handling team in a crisis like extreme weather harms, with several parallel crises at the same time. As you can see, also the state administrator up in the right is represented in this team and in these team meetings. I'm not going to tell you all about these stakeholders or all of this network, but you can see it's a lot of people with very lots of knowledge. So also we had 35 different collaboration partners in our stakeholders in the crisis management team, and the collaboration leadership is practiced mostly horizontally and not so much up and down leadership. And all the first meetings is handled on video conference to ensure that everybody can participate in a short notice, and to ensure that we have the experts who can give advice to the management and the team. And we also, this is very important to have this common arena for crisis management with all the actors who can quality ensure decisions and who can contribute to professional decisions and solutions. And with this kind of organization, we have a short distance to interaction, and you can quality assurance when all the crisis management teams is located at the same arena or the same spot. Yeah, and now a little about crisis communication work, and where did the citizens find information during this event, Hans? And the citizens used municipality websites and SMS messages to get information from the authorities. And the blue bar shows the use of the municipality website, the orange bar shows the use of the municipality social media, and the green bar shows the use of SMS text messages. Yeah, and why did we manage to handle the situations? And this is from the evaluation report, according to the why we was able to manage the crisis. So this is because we had plans to maintain continuity when personnel are reorganized. We have agreements with voluntary organizations with the necessary expertise, and we have an agreement with evacuation hotels, a good collaborative climate, and the organization that collaborates well internally and externally. Also, of course, in a normal situation and under crisis. And a municipality was large enough to have in-house expertise with knowledge of the municipality. Yeah, and we had a wide use of communication channels as SMS, websites, social media, and the media in general as a tool to get out the message to the citizens. And we also have a very good crisis management leadership with the meeting structure and the openness to give input to the crisis management before they took decisions. Broad involvement of all actors early and on during the incident, and this resulted in a shared understanding of the situation. For example, we have our own geologists who know the municipality very well. We have our own special drone pilots with very good knowledge of maps and map solutions. And citizens follow the orders and advices from the rescue workers and from the municipality authorities. And of course, without a volunteer organization, we can't deal with any big crisis. They are priceless, and we are very thankful that we have them in our team. So I'm going to tell you a little about now is why we think the citizens follow the authorities, and I think it's that they trust the authorities. And our experience is that it's very important to have meetings with organizations, teams, and associations regularly to let us know each other, and also have meetings with organizations for vulnerable groups and a good cooperation with volunteer organizations. Also cooperation with schools and education programs that involve preparedness. Also regularly updates that shows that we're working on the preparedness team, that we show activity, and activity builds trust. Simple messages with pictures, text, and video that citizens understand easily. And we also produce adapted information to different groups in different languages. It's very important to reach out to the residents and inform and answer questions. Tell them where they can get help and advice. For example, explain the national guidelines and help citizens to translate it into what's in it for me. It's often the municipality or voluntary organizations that are asked about this, not the national authorities. And the municipality is closest to the citizens. And if the citizens have experienced a good dialogue with the municipality and a trust to the authorities, they often listen and take advice and follow it. And here's a picture with me holding an information stand at the local mall, together with a representative from the civil defense. In the summary, I will now focus on 5 things that I think can be useful for you to build capacity in handling crisis and build trust in dialogue with the citizens. I've talked about it before in this presentation, but it's very important, I will repeat it. That you have a wide collaboration network. Don't be afraid of wide involvement of partners also in the planning phase and in exercises. Have meetings and presentations about self-preparedness with organizations, teams, and also associations with large networks to the members. Create a good proactive cooperation with volunteer organizations. Have meetings in peacetime so you know each other when the crisis occur. Practice regular updates on many communication channels that shows that the organization is active on the topic of preparedness. Regular activity builds trust. Have meetings, as I said before, also with elderly organizations, vulnerable groups, even military veterans. Let them know how the municipality works with preparedness and crisis management. And number 5, answer questions around self-preparedness. Use organizations to different religious organizations to inform their members themselves. Customize channels for different groups. And finally, the volunteer organizations is one of the biggest resources for the local work with preparedness. And they have a wide network and you have to use it. And of course, always a good dialogue with the municipality seat, so that shows that you care and you have focus on making them ready for future challenges and crises. And in the picture here, you can see me together with the mayor of Ringerike discussing self-preparedness in the city information center, where citizens can come with questions with one. So thank you for attention. I hope this was a meaningful presentation for you. And if you have any questions, just write it in the chat or write me an email. We'll answer you. Thank you very much.
Panie dyrektorze, dziękujemy bardzo za ten
Thank you very much,
to praktyczne przesłanie tych 5 rad, które
Director, for
podsumowują
this
ten wymiar
practical information for these 5 councils that preparedness comes down to very tangible activity, engaging the local community, but also showing this preparedness through such surprising, shocking, unpredictable events. Each of these 5 points is important, but the last one, this preparedness to answer new questions, address new issues, is the most important, because this builds this new dimension of preparedness, of readiness. I'd like to encourage, following what you said, if there are any questions on the chat, feel free to ask them, or by email. Remember, there is email in our presentation, www.local development forum. All the presentations will be available there. They are all translated into both languages. There will be a recording in a few days, so you'll be able to revisit the material. We have with us Ms. Anna Ojen, and since we've discussed this topic practically, and she has MSc in Social Security in Tromsø at the Arctic University of Norway, but also a head of communications in AECO. She will show us this from the perspective of research. What is the key role of the social capital? As I said, we've seen it from practice, but we'd like you to share with us this more theoretical, more scientific perspective. Could you please share it with us? Because from this perspective, you can also highlight certain recommendations that might be really important inspirations for us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for the introduction. Can you see my presentation? It works great.
Yes.
So, yeah, good, thanks. My name is Anna Ojen, and as mentioned, I work as head of communications with the Association of Arctic Expedition Cruise Operators. We work lots with cross-sector and cross-border collaboration, focusing on the industry as an asset in preparedness, which is of course relevant here, but I'm here to share my master's thesis, which is about how rural communities prepare for and respond to crisis. And this is a part of my master's degree in societal security and emergency preparedness from the University in Tromsø. So when we think about emergency preparedness, there's often a lot of focus on government response, emergency and healthcare systems, and large-scale disaster management. But today, I want to share a different perspective that highlights the importance of a very overlooked resilience component, which is social capital in preparing for a future crisis. So I want to take you back to November 2017. You can see the picture here is mine. I had just relocated from Oslo, the capital of Norway, to a very remote valley in northern Norway in Bardu. And I was completely isolated by a really violent storm called Ylva. The power was out, it was cold, the roads were blocked, and communication lines were down. So I was sitting there and I realized two things. The first was that no emergency services or people from the outside world were going to be able to help me. And no amount of personal preparedness could replace the importance of the community I was living in. So my new neighbor was the only one who came to check on me and make sure that I was safe. And this was something I rarely experienced when I was living in Oslo. And Ylva, this storm, turned out to be one of the worst storms in the region for a long time, with massive consequences and 150 million Norwegian kroner in damages. And it lasted for several days. And this was one of many incidents that sparked my interest in emergency preparedness and how vulnerable we are and how reliant we've become as a society on help from outside. So to cut a long story short, this led me to my master's thesis with a special focus on understanding the concept of resilience and what it actually means on a community level. So for me to get to the bottom of this, I asked these 3 questions, and it was how social capital manifests in a crisis, what the different perceptions are within a community, and finally, the factors that we should be concerned about when we aim to strengthen social capital. So I had a closer look at 2 small municipalities in northern Norway, where I also live, and I interviewed public officials and people who work with emergency preparedness and response, and also regular people who live in these small communities. So Karlsøy is an island-based fishing community, and they face depopulation. They're very exposed to harsh weather, and they're often isolated due to their reliance on ferry connections. They have a shifting and aging demographics, and they have certain conflicts locally related to things such as wind power and fish farming. Bardu is the place where I lived. It's an inland high altitude community with a very strong military presence. And it's got a mix of permanent residents and temporary workers, including young Norwegian soldiers and foreign troops. So when you follow the news, there are countless stories about people in rural communities stepping up when disasters strike. A lot of the other people before me have mentioned this as well. So it's the people, the citizens that help out their neighbors, clear roads, and they share resources. And the need for this community-driven resilience is only growing because we're facing a complex risk landscape with climate change and the increase in extreme weather. We have, as mentioned, geopolitical tensions. We also have the rapid technological developments, which is reshaping our security and risk landscape. And as mentioned also, demographic shifts and societal inequality is also putting pressure on communities and makes these local support systems more important than ever. So the question isn't just how to prepare for the next crisis, but how you build communities that are strong enough to adapt and recover, regardless of the crisis and what the future brings. So in this slide, you see an abandoned house in one of the municipalities, and this is one of the neighboring houses to where I lived. And this illustrates part of the problem that's been highlighted through my research. It's that a lot of people are leaving the communities, so the houses are empty. Young people won't come back, and this is something that is worth mentioning. So, as you know, Norwegian municipalities were given a much more responsibility for building resilient communities, and they're described as the cornerstone of preparedness. But there are huge differences or major differences in how well they are equipped to handle crisis, especially in the north. So we see there's a north-south divide in terms of resilience mapping. And of course, experiences such as the terrorist attacks in Oslo in 2011 and the pandemic and the Gjerdrum landslides, if you're familiar with them, they've highlighted the need for this cross-sector collaboration to strengthen preparedness. But simply put, the municipalities and the emergency services can't do it alone, and they depend on the robust citizens and the local competence to cope with crisis. And that's when we're onto the topic of resilience. So what does resilience actually mean in a community context? There's still a lack of consensus, but what there is an agreement on is that resilience isn't just about the response to crisis. It's also about the preparation and the adaptation and recovery as a collective. And integrating resilience into risk management and planning is important here. So a resilient community is one that can anticipate risks and understand the challenges that they might face. and absorbing shocks and having the systems in place to minimize the damage and adapting to changing conditions, learning from crisis to improve future responses, and of course the key ingredients, recovering, so being able to bounce back maybe even stronger than before when there has been an impact. So a lot of you might be familiar with this already, but it's a model that shows a recommended framework on how to assess community resilience. And this provides a structured way to assess the ability a community has to handle a crisis. It's based on like critical infrastructure, and it's by evaluating the different forms of what we call capitals. And since there is no universal consensus on how to measure resilience, these frameworks, such as ISRA, is recommended to break down resilience into concrete and measurable components, and helps municipalities systematically identify strengths and vulnerabilities. And the reason why these standardized approaches are recommended is to kind of have that agreement. If you want to strengthen resilience, you need to have a common understanding of what it actually means and how you measure it and what your resilience against. But I'm focusing on the one key resilience factor that you see here, and it's social capital. So a lot of academics and others believe that it's the foundation of community resilience, and it's built on obviously trust, relationships, and this mutual aid, not only in crisis, but also in times of peace. And it's shaped by a lot of different factors or indicators. And these are such as social welfare, resource sharing, active participation in the community, shared values, inclusion, public information, which Magnus also talked a lot about before me, and this cross-sector collaboration. And what's common when you're talking about social capital is to focus on these three key types, which are important to note. So this is kind of the framework on understanding social capital, and it's social capital, which is the close-knit relationships within families, close friends, and within very close neighbors. And then you have the next level, which is the bridging social capital, which links different groups in a community, like organizations, volunteers, and businesses and companies. And then you have linking social capital, which is vertical, and this is based on trust and cooperation between the and institutions and authorities and municipalities and such. So when these networks combined are strong and balanced, according to theory, communities have been proven to mobilize quickly, collaborate, share resources, and recover much faster, and even adapt better to crisis. But when these ties are weak, people are left more, or communities are left more vulnerable, and they struggle to recover. Something's happening here. There we are. So in my findings, this is just the key findings. There's of course a lot more I could talk about, but when it comes to the close relationships, bonding social capital, it's basically a survival tool. So in both Bardu and Karlsøy, people relied first and foremost on friends and family and neighbors. And 78% say that this is where they primarily expect help, closest to home, basically. And for example, there was a very tragic avalanche in Karlsøy municipality with evacuations and loss of life. Residents, instead of using the shelters that were provided, they instead stayed with friends and family, and people opened their doors. And you've seen in Bardu, when there's been violent storms and such, that the farming community and people with their equipment are the first to respond. And when roads are closed, they use their tractors and their equipment. They help out when they're needed. And they've also reached out to the municipality because of their close ties and offered help. So this kind of shows the relationships. People with boats help strangers cross the fjords when the ferries aren't working. And volunteering or volunteers are essential in search and rescue operations, especially when there are landslides or such, or people get lost, but also when there are other incidents. So the bridging social capital connects the resources, but it's fragile. So you see where you have volunteers, businesses, and local organizations, they play a key role in mobilizing help. But there's, even though volunteerism is strong, there is a slight decline within certain aspects of that. The aging population is pointed to as one possible reason, which can weaken this safety net over time, but it's still strong in comparison to more urban areas. There are also indications that newcomers and foreigners aren't always welcomed and included, and that there are some tendencies to skepticism and such from people that have lived there for generations towards people who come in from the outside with new ideas or such. There's certain tension when it comes to the traditional values and ways of life that can be threatened by especially large organizations such as wind farming, wind power or fish farming, and this can create some tension between the groups. But as one of my respondents put it, these differences seem to vanish when an actual crisis hits. And as she put it, the hatchets are buried and people help each other and reach out, and that's what really matters. So when it comes to linking social capital, the vertical lines, there's a variation in trust in general. People support their local communities and the representatives, and that they also feel that they can influence policy and that they get their voice heard. But while they expect authorities to coordinate disaster response, their trust in the ability to actually help them and react quickly isn't that strong. So this is down to several factors. So when we talk about strengthening social capital or strengthening resilience, focusing on social capital is important. So of course, I don't have all the answers, but the results from the research indicate several things. And the points are also based on literature from disaster response in other countries and learnings from major events, especially like the Japanese earthquakes and the hurricanes in New Orleans. So they're also based on experiences in the communities that I've studied and the measures that they see as efficient in the long term and from learning experiences. So one is investing in social infrastructure and creating communities that support people in all walks of life. And this is everything from shared public spaces and parks and playgrounds and inclusive neighborhoods. And one of the key things that was mentioned was these events that reoccur, which are actually a strong arena for bringing people together, and also from learning about which resources they have. And then it's the support and involvement of volunteers and volunteer organizations and local networks, not just the Red Cross and these volunteer organizations. It's societies with like volunteer organizations for elderly or immigrants that are also proven to be strong players in the community and give them a seat at the table. So it's about that inclusion that also Magnus was talking about. So broadening your network and then mapping out these resources. And that means everything from the local industry, what is on the farms, in the shops and the hotels, both in terms of material, but also the personnel resources, and formalizing these in agreements and including them in exercises and in preparedness plans. So you have that awareness and encouraging the engagement. So making sure people are informed and included, as was also mentioned, making things available in different languages and on different platforms, understanding the communication channels. One example there was the frequent use of town hall meetings, and not just having them in person, but making them available digitally so you can include more people and ensure that it's accessible to everyone. And also developing tools for communication and sharing information in times of peace that can be used when it's critical. And then just the improvement of risk communication, so people understand the risks, and these have to be communicated very clearly also what we can expect the authorities to provide, and help align expectations. And this also points in the direction of personal preparedness. So I'm assuming Poland, like Norway, faces the same uncertain future with the same complex landscape. So the best civil protection strategy isn't just the stronger institutions, which do get a lot of focus. It's about these communities and these investments in social capital, so that the phenomenon of neighbors helping neighbors isn't just this last resort or something you see trust in as something that materializes, but it's something that you focus on all the time. And it should be a fundamental part of preparedness planning from a national level and down to the local community. So at the end of the day, it's not just about resources or funding or technology. It's about these people and the relationships. And I love this picture because it shows how you should spend your resources, and it's easy to make the wrong priorities. It's too late to realize it when you need that boat. So it requires sometimes thinking outside the box and investing in long-term strategies for communities. So I want to end where I began, in this remote valley in Bardu. So when my old neighbors who knocked on my door when the storm Ylva was raging outside, when they learned that I was writing my thesis, they invited me over, and we still have a good relationship. So with great enthusiasm, they wanted to show me. I had to come and see. So they wanted to show me their latest upgrade. So the oven you see here is their state-of-the-art investment in personal preparedness. And this is something that's going to provide them with heat, cooking opportunities. And it's always a centerpiece where the neighbors can gather the next time they're left to their own devices. So they've learned from experiences, they're informed about their responsibility to prepare, and they've taken initiatives to make sure that they're self-sufficient and can be a resource for their neighbors. So I believe that this is one of the important pieces of the puzzle that we need to keep our eyes on. So with this anecdote, I want to say thank you for your attention. And if you have any more questions or would like me to share parts of my thesis with you, I'm happy to get back to you either via email or chat. So thank you.
Bardzo dziękujemy za prezentację, która dotknęła chyba
Thank you very much for the presentation that touched the root of building this readiness, this preparedness, because many people think that the social capital is much more important than the financial one, and even more important than the human capital, and the building of this area is the most important task for local governments. And today we have seen that this social capital is also important to build safe cities and municipalities. And I think that Anna's research has proved what has been already proved in the practice, what we see in our experience. So this is where we see that science and practice go together. This was the last presentation for today, but I would like to ask for a short summing up. Mr. Kamil Wieder and Tomasz Podkański, you are here with us. Kamil Wieder, the head of division, Department of Assistant Programs. Give you the floor. Thank you very much. Maybe it's too much to say a very short summing up, because we have heard so many different points of view. And honestly speaking, for me, all this research in the last presentation, they were very interesting and showed a completely different perspective, that when we try to build our smallest communities, this is the way. This is what we should do. This is what we want to show our cities that we cooperate with, that this is the level, the local level that we should start with. And additionally, the research, but not only actually, also the previous presentation showed us that the work with the inhabitants, helping them, but also preparing them, showing them the ways how to do this. That's the clue. The last slide, the fantastic. Why? Is it resilience? Well, yes, maybe in the smallest community, the smallest unity of the community as the family or household, yes, this is a easiest way to be really ready, to be resilient. Maybe it is also a way for us, for all of us, to think about building this grassroots resilience. I'm very satisfied with all this discussion, how this discussion has been held, the activity on the chat, the questions that were asked, also to our main speakers. I'm really happy about it. I'm even in a double way happy because I know that this topic will be continued. And I hope that with the Swiss funds, we will also be able to continue those interesting and fruitful discussions. Today's meeting has proved, and this is of course not the first meeting regarding resilience, that this is a very important area. This is a place where we have to refer to in all our activities on different levels. And I think that in our plans for the future activities, we have, of course, enlisted this important topic. And another joy for me, and why these speakers' presentations were so happy, were so fruitful for us. I think it helps us to prepare for the future. This is why I'm very grateful, and I would like to say a big thank you from the Ministry of Development Funds and Regional Policy as the operated that I have been financing this meeting for the last time, but also in the name of all my colleagues that are in charge of the Swiss funds. I invite you to apply for next extra funds and to next meetings that will definitely held on our forums. Once again, a very big thank you, and I give the floor to the director Podkański. I'm also very happy that we can be here today because we have been cooperating for 5 years within this Norwegian program, and I hope that in the close future we will have 2 more programs on the same time as a completion of this, what we have done during this time. Big thank you to all our Norwegian colleagues for all those precious comments, all those precious conclusions that they have shared with us. And I have noted just a few of them, pointing to the communication issue. In Polish, we would say different institutions on different local self-government levels and local issues, like the governor, for example, who supports the municipalities, who shares information. This is a very important thing that really points out to the weakest points in our system that we should improve, definitely improve. And also some more points from Sigurd about those cross-sectoral groups with NGOs, the workshops for planning and strategies of acting. This is what we really need. And it would be very good to have in Poland. What Magnus has mentioned about Ringerike, that the crisis sometimes appear a few at once. So this example, how you can cope with many crises at one, like for this flood, we managed because we had our plans, we used all the channels of communication that we had as a municipality, and because we had prepared our inhabitants in the past, in advance, and we had agreements with NGOs, agreements with hotels, and first of all, we had a very good climate and trust of cooperation. This is why we managed. That's very important what you have said. Head of division Kamil Wieder has already commented that how important it is to build this social capital after the last presentation, after Anne's presentation, how to build this resilience. This is a long-term investment in the future, and I totally agree, we all totally agree with that. In all our programs, we really try to include this direction of our activities and share it and transfer it to other unities, also with self-government unities. And I'm also happy about those Polish examples from Opole Agglomeration and from Konin. In Opole, it has been already 10 years that this cooperation is going on. And what was mentioned, this institutionalization that was mentioned by Mr. Ozimek, it has provided the entities in a formal way to get access to materials, for example, they have already had, because they can transfer the materials to the places where there are need. So such type of activities is very important in different centers that we have in Poland in different levels, in many partnerships. And also the Konin example that can show us that how much of this cooperation has already been on. And at the end, just to quote, a well-informed inhabitant is more rational and aware. And this quotation, this is something that we want to take to our heart, because we want to teach our inhabitants how they can act in the crisis situation and how can they act in a sensible way, how can they be prepared. And just to end my speech, this is not just the fact of being prepared or introducing preparedness. This is not just pure theory. We are the members of NATO. We have our duties to do. We have to build this preparedness, and we have to get ready for different types of danger. And among those, this area of cooperation, vertical and horizontal, is so important. And I'm so happy that today's meeting, this local development forum, could discuss these examples. We could show good practice from Poland and could hear good examples from Norway. And this cooperation of Polish-Norwegian cooperation is also one of the points that I'm happy about. And thank you very much for this, for your presentations. Thank you for this summing up. And before we end today's meeting, two more pieces of information. First of all, on the chat, you have a link to the assessment questionnaire. Please take a few minutes to give us your feedback, because we really are keen on your opinions. We try to improve our activities, and this is important. This is impossible without your feedback. So please fill in the form, the assessment form that you have on the chat. The second thing I want to say, all the recordings are available on our Polish Cities Association website. You can find them there. So if someone was not here, couldn't join us, you can come back to it. You can come back to the recordings, all the slides. They are available on our website. So all I can say is a very big thank you to all our speakers that were with us, that prepared all those great presentations, and to the translators of the sign language and also of Polish and English language. All the Polish Association of Polish Cities that is here with me that you can't see, but this team is so important to make possible all those our seminars to ensure the connections, the communication, which is not always easy when we have so many participants from different parts of the world. A very big thank you to all of you, and I hope to see you the next time on the next local development forum. Because, as it was mentioned by Kamil Bieder and the director of Spotkańskie, that's not the end, that's just the end of one stage. Within this framework of partnership with Norwegian, but we are looking forward to the next forums and next meeting. Thank you very much. Greetings from Poznań. Goodbye.